Hello, everybody, and welcome to Demystifying SEO for E-commerce, your questions answered. We have an incredible turnout today, and I really just want to start by thanking you guys for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us. We said it was going to be awesome. It's going to be awesome. We promise to make it worth your time. My name is Allison.
And I'm Grace.
And we are both search marketing specialists on Volusion's internal SEO services team. We work with other SEOs, social media, paid search, shopping feed experts, and a team of e-commerce marketing consultants. So our number one goal as a team is driving merchant success. Here at Volusion, we do get a lot of questions from our merchants about SEO. We actually asked our customer experience team for the most common questions they get regarding SEO, and we're going to start off by answering those here for you today.
Yeah, that's right. We're just going to help you wrap your arms around it a little bit better. Today we're going to start by giving you a brief overview of some basic SEO principles, so no matter what your level is so far, we'll get you up to speed. And then we're going to cover how you can use them easily and effectively with Volusion's different software fields. Then we're going to discuss backlinks and how to get them. And we'll also give you some ins and outs on the popular Google six-pack. We'll also be reviewing some important metrics to keep in mind as you're monitoring your store, and then go through some easy SEO action items that you can do if you just have 15 minutes each day. So go ahead and message your question in as they pop up, and be sure to stick around because at the end we're going to have a Q&A session in case you still have any burning questions about your own situations. And we're also going to be sharing some exciting promotions that are going on, as well as details on how to be entered to win some awesome free SEO audits and giveaways that our team will be working on for you. So be sure to stay tuned.
All right, so just SEO can be confusing. We get that. There's so much conflicting information, and it feels like things are changing all the time. So we're going to start by just breaking it down to basics. We want to make this information just a little bit more digestible. Only a couple years ago, SEO really could have been distilled down to just filling in the keyword tag and building a bunch of links. The more the merrier. A typical SEO campaign would really be rudimentary or paid link building, and despite its crudeness, a website could really see results from that. But those days are long gone.
Yeah, and we know that a lot of you probably receive emails every day from people giving you conflicting information and promoting their supposedly free SEO audit tools all the time. And we want you to know that these are scare tactics that are sent out by SEO firms to source leads for their own paid services. Typically, this automated information lacks real meaning without a little bit of knowledgeable SEO interpretation. The SEO today is so much more complex than that and requires a real human touch and, to be perfectly frank, a little bit of marketing know-how. The web is a much more competitive place than it used to be. As a result of that, the search engines have become a lot more sophisticated in how they're going to distinguish the good from the bad websites. Today, Google can sniff out an inauthentic link and manipulation in the blink of an eye. It's not hard for them. They see it all the time. And now they even began issuing manual penalties last year, meaning that, yes, there's actually a real human being on the other end of there running a quality check on your store and your link profile. The SEO of yesterday was cut and dry and, dare I say it, even easy.
That's right, Grace. And honestly, to make things even more complicated, today's SEO doesn't stop when the click reaches your website. Google is still measuring how that visitor behaves on your site once they get there. So that behavior has an impact on your SEO performance. Remember, Google's goal is to serve up results that real humans want to see, the best results for that exact query. So you need to really approach SEO from that perspective. Like, how do you make your search result the best for a particular question? And what's best for your prospective customers once they get there?
Yeah, Alex, exactly right. It's about putting good information on your site and making it easy and most of all logical for customers to find what they're looking for. When people get frustrated and leave your website, Google's going to see that. Or conversely, when people stop to read, view a couple products, and then share it with their friends, Google's going to see that too, and it's going to send a much better signal to them. SEO is all about giving the search engines information and then constantly trying to improve the shopping experience for your own customers. And we really think that that's what's going to pay off in the long run. So remember that for most things, you should ask yourself, does this have real value of its own and value for my customers, or am I just doing it for Google? Because keep in mind that Google has a commitment to its own customers as well to bring them the best content as quickly as possible, which is why we all use it for everything.
All right, so let's just dig into our first question. What are the most important SEO fields? So the Volusion software makes it really easy to populate the SEO fields in every page of your site, so you're not having to hand code those in. For some of your bigger pages, like the home page or the About Us, you can find all these fields under the Marketing SEO tab in the dashboard. For other stuff like products and categories, your SEO information can be accessed in the advanced info section of each of those pages. So today there's really just 3 fields that we're going to focus on: the SEO-friendly URL, the meta tag title, and the meta description.
So let's start first with the URL field. Having an SEO-friendly URL not only helps to give Google a good idea of what's on the page, but then it will also help people link back to your site because the links are more clear and understandable and state what it's about. So really try to keep them short and sweet. They can be a variant of the product name or something that's a little less branded, describing exactly what the product is on or what the page is all about. So if you're selling women's running shoes on a category page, that would be the perfect keyword to put in as the URL. Now we're going to talk a little bit about the other meta fields. So let's start with an example here. We all make searches in Google every day, and you know what your typical search result's going to look like. The part in blue, that's the link, is your meta tag title, and the part below it is your meta tag description. The meta tag title should be shorter than the description and really be attention grabbing. Google uses the title field to figure out what the page is all about, so it's a really awesome place to try to put some relevant keywords in. The meta tag description tells your customer why should they click on this link instead of other ones. We usually recommend to use a couple of short sentences and then end in a call to action. In this way, you can tell them something a little bit about the page and try to get their click by letting them know that you have something great to offer them, like really affordable, competitive prices or free shipping on your products. You should ask yourself when you're going through and filling out these fields in the dashboard a couple of questions like, how am I enticing them to click, and am I accurately describing what's on this page?
Remember, these are for the individual page you're working on, so try and talk as specifically as you can about that page rather than the website as a whole as much as possible. We want the different pages to show up in different results, so they shouldn't all be exactly the same. Tell the customer what they're going to find on that page and why they should go to you for it. Volusion also gives you a ton of space to fill in these fields, but Google can only show so much. Actually, the amount that Google can show is a lot less than what's in those SEO fields. So there isn't actually an exact number of letters. Google decides the space based on pixels. This means you could put a lot more I's in a row than X's. So SERPsimulator.com or the Moz title tool are really great tools that you can use to get an idea of how these things you're writing are really going to show up so your text won't be cut off. Using a tool like this is going to make your descriptions look way more professional. We also have a great couple of posts in the Volusion blog that go into a little bit more depth about the meta title and description field so that you can just, get really good ideas on how to write attention-grabbing content for these fields. I wanted to go ahead and remind you that the links right now, you can't click them. I'm sorry about that. But they will be when we send out the slide deck after the webinar. So you'll be able to get to all those pages we just talked about.
Another thing that we get a lot of questions about from our merchants is the best way to fill out the keyword field in your dashboard. There is a keyword field in there. However, in the past, people used to use it to stuff in as many terms as possible. So it really didn't become a reliable place to get information. They would put in words that were maybe a little bit relevant or not even relevant to their page to try to drive in traffic that wasn't authentic and wasn't right for what they were selling. So instead, Google would prefer to see your keywords worked into the content or descriptions on your page as naturally as you can. We know that Bing may still be using the keyword field in a couple of different ways, but it is still a much stronger signal to try to include them naturally elsewhere. So for the time being, our recommendation is to leave the keyword field alone and instead focus your time and your efforts on trying to include them in your title tags, your URLs, and your product descriptions to get the most bang for your buck there. Also, try experimenting putting them with the content of your description fields and then work them elsewhere naturally into your sentences describing the products on the actual web content itself. To create good keywords, just try having a brainstorming session and think of words that people might be using to find your item besides what you might call the item itself. So, as an example, if you sell car accessories, You might vary the search terms that you include by using vehicle embellishments or automobile ornaments, since they all play off the same thing and you could get some similar traffic.
All right, on to our next question. This one comes from our support department a lot. Why doesn't Volusion use H1 tags, or Volusion can't do H1s? This is really a bizarre misconception that just won't seem to go away, but I'd just like to state for the record right now that it is 100% false.
Yeah, that's right. You can put an H1 anywhere that you can put HTML on your page. That's just a basic fact of the Volusion software. Now, as we mentioned before, there are some automated tools that you'll get emails about that you can pop your website into and it will run an SEO audit for you. Typically, it would check for a laundry list of things, of course, without human logic behind it. And these tools might say, here's a list of pages that don't have H1 tags on your site. But remember, it's also important to understand that the main goal of most of these tools is to find something to tell you is missing so that then they can sell you their SEO services along the line.
That's right. So one of the reasons they probably choose an H1 is because it's a bit rare for a website to have an H1 on every single page of the site. So they can almost always say something's missing. A missing H1 is not cause for alarm, and it's not a shortcoming of the software. You can add H1 tags to any of your pages, but before you do, it's important to understand the logic behind what an H1 is intended to do so you can use it effectively.
Yeah, and to add to that, honestly, H1s are technically an SEO best practice, and we always advise our clients and our merchants to use them, but placing an H1 tag is not going to make or break your site. We really think that title tags are far more important, but H1s can be really useful when you're trying to structure your page in a logical way for your reader to understand the information. But to bring it back a little bit, what really is an H1 anyways? An H1 tag is your main heading tag, and you should only use it if it makes sense for the structure of that exact page. To paint a picture that everyone can imagine, to make it a little more digestible, think about the heading of a magazine article. It's going to summarize and describe what you're about to read, and it should be the same way on your website. The goal being to introduce the description, the content, or the product. So again, just to be totally clear, anywhere that you can put HTML code, you can put an H1 tag. We typically put these and see them in the product and category description fields or in any other HTML-friendly fields on your dashboard. Make sure when you're entering them that you're in the code view of the description and you can put around your heading. We see here, we highlighted a little box that you would click to get to the code view versus the easy editing view. And really, you don't have to be an HTML whiz to keep the code clean in your descriptions. You want to have one H1 per page and then move on to other subcategories like H2s, H3s, etc. So now let's take a little look of what a nicely coded description might look like.
All right, so this shows you how the code looks and a little preview of how it would show up more or less. So here we're introducing the text with an H1 tag. We try and keep this code as minimalist as possible so the search engines don't have to dig through too much when trying to get to the good stuff, your content. I mean, you can see that this is readable even to a human. It's not just a whole bunch of code. We have a second section that's introduced by an H2 or a subheading, so that just keeps everything nice and tidy and breaks it up for the reader. If you're really worried about having clear coding for the descriptions that you're adding, here's a good tip. When you're pasting in your descriptions, make sure that you're pasting them in the code view, because if you bring in a description from something like Word in the normal editing view, there's going to be a ton of messy code that comes in with it, code on top of code, which is what we want to avoid. So this is going to keep all your code easier to read for Google. It's going to keep things looking exactly how you want as HTML updates happen, and there's just going to be less room for confusion overall.
If you're curious or you're still feeling confused and you want to learn a little bit more about basic HTML, we suggest w3schools.com as a great free resource.
So clean code is really just about getting Google what it needs quickly, and while having an H1 tag is a best practice, it's important to know that this isn't going to have a huge impact on your search engine traffic just in and of itself. You really want the content to be clear for the reader, so use headings, use lists, use anything else that's going to make the content easily digestible. That's a good idea if it makes sense for your page. Google's able to look at the context of your page and understand what it is with or without an H1. And the importance of just a singular piece of code like that is really declining as a ranking factor in terms of, how much it matters. If the content on the page is good and people are interacting with it well, Google's not going to stop showing your site just because you don't have an H1 tag. So if you're looking to make the most of your time and you can just do one thing, working on those meta tags is really going to have a much stronger impact for you.
All right, so let's move on to our next topic now. What are backlinks? Backlinks are a big part of SEO, but they're also sometimes the most controversial. A backlink is basically just a link on another website that points to a page on your website. And their quality depends on what the website they originate from is. Is it authoritative? And is it truly relevant to the context of your website?
So the most important thing with backlinks is there should be an honest connection between those two websites. So chances are a website selling hair care products really shouldn't be getting links from a website about power tools. Just has no business being there. So a good rule of thumb is if you look at the website and you can't discern a real connection between those two, that link is bad news. The search engines will likely view that as manipulative, as in you created that link intentionally, just trying to game the system or trying to get numbers. And so now there's a real chance that you could be punished.
Yeah, Google has really evolved when it comes to quantifying the value of the backlinks. For a while, it was kind of the site with the most backlinks wins kind of policy. But of course, that's not the case anymore. Google has a really complex and extremely accurate system in place to determine if links are authentic or not and what value those links bring to a website or a specific page that the link points to. They even have penalties, like Allison mentioned, if they think that the links are not relevant or if you're trying to game the system. But don't be nervous about it. Honestly, if you have good content on your site and an interesting product, with the help of a little bit of marketing and PR and continued SEO, people should be linking to it naturally over time. A lot of professional SEO experts are shelving that traditional link building strategy for other things like content development or social media marketing in order to facilitate that natural link building, which tends to be a lot more effective.
Absolutely. But sometimes you just can't resist the urge to go out and get it. So if you're planning to actively try and earn links, it's better to think about the humans that are going to encounter that link and not the search engine. So try to get links that you think will be the kind of traffic you want on your own. You can show Google that your website has authority by getting strong backlinks from appropriate websites. So if you're selling kids' toys, it would make sense to reach out to a mommy blog and ask for a link or maybe offer to send a product in exchange for a feature in a post. People that would like your store may be on that site and you want to market your product to those customers. The search engine part comes later. They'll see those links and they'll see if the people following them genuinely like your site, so then that would be a good link if they do. A few good links is worth so much more than a bunch of bad ones.
Yeah, that's right. And so to give you a little more details on how to do it, when you create a link to another site or if someone creates a link to your site, there's a few ways. If you just make a link by default, it's called a do follow link, and you are telling the search engines that you do want them to index it and learn what the relationship is between those two sites. There's also no follow links where you add in a little bit of easy code telling the search engines that this link is not important. So if you are going to link to a site that's not related, or sometimes even a page in your own website, like, for example, the shipping page on your website that isn't really that important for people to come up in a search result and you would rather other pages come up in a search result, you can and you really ought to use a no-follow tag. And again, the links are not currently live in the presentation, but later on you'll be able to follow the link to figure out how to do it on your own and grab that little snippet of code. And if you did get some bad or spammy links in the past, another thing you can do is to disavow them in Webmaster Tools. Use your Webmaster Tools to see what's linking to your site and if those sites make sense for you. It's a good idea to check your link profile every once in a while so you have a sense of what's going on and who's sending traffic to your store.
You know, there's a variety of reasons that bad links can happen. We definitely have stores that have come to us and they had some bad links that they got in the past and they've had to go through this process. So you can first ask those sites that are linking to you to remove those links if they're no good. And if not, if they don't reply, you can let Google know that you don't want to be associated with those links. So you can definitely get ahead of it if you find anything that looks strange. Don't worry. Again, This is just for stuff that's not relevant. If the website is in your industry, there's some context for the link, that's exactly what you want to happen. Like, that's what you're going for. So try to check your links maybe every month or so you know what's going on and you're going to stay ahead of the curve.
The clickable text that makes the link is called the anchor text and gives a little bit of information to the search engine. So try to mix up what you're doing. You might sometimes have it say, click here, or you might make your store name the URL. If you're asking for a link, you can use your company name with a link to the homepage or a more descriptive link with that anchor text that might lead to a deeper page in your website. Make sure that the anchor text makes sense in the context of the sentence that it's in. And don't worry, don't spend too much time trying to cram those keywords in. The main thing that we want to caution you to stay away from is paying money for a bunch of low quality links or pursuing links that are not relevant to your store, as these are the main practices that these days will earn you a penalty from Google.
And yeah, exactly. The goal here is for things to look naturally. So if you aren't just letting it happen on its own, try to think about how natural it feels for a given site to be linking to yours. So you really need to make sure that that relationship makes sense. All right, so back to the 7 results SERP. So basically, Google is always testing search results, and recently they've been exploring a few different, fancy search results when they feel like they already know exactly what you're looking for. Some of those are even like a search bar. It's pretty cool. The biggest one we get asked about is the 7 results SERP, also known as the 6-pack search result. So that's the one where it shows a web page and then a list of 6 links within the same site below, which takes up a lot of space. It's really nice. So you guys have been asking us how to get this to show up for your store, and we can understand why. It's some really great eye-catching real estate. It's a huge piece of real estate.
Yeah, and these usually show up most often for branded searches, like when a customer is typing in the name of a store or a product, for example. They usually aren't appearing for keywords like women's dresses or pool supplies, even though they sometimes might. And even if you are searching for a brand, they won't show this way all the time. It is much more likely to come up if you're a bigger store or if you dominate in your niche. This is usually just for the top spot when you search for something.
Yeah, essentially, Google has a mind of its own. It decides when and how to show it. They even pick what categories are included based on their information of what they think people are going to want to click to. So you don't need to go in and change the code. Volusion doesn't need to go in and update the code. Google is making this decision for you. That being said, if you do notice these search results showing up for your store and they're listing something like, I don't know, the login page or something that you don't want to show there or you don't feel like is that important, you can demote that page in your Webmaster Tools account and Google will replace it with something else of their choosing, hopefully a better option than that first one. So Google really just likes to try out new things, and this gives them a better clue of, where you really wanted to go before you even leave the search engine. Sometimes you'll see results like this with 10 links, or sometimes it'll have 6. Ultimately, we really like this one, and we hope it's here to stay. We definitely expect Google to continue playing with fun features like this that give you different real estate in that search engine result page.
So even though you can't force Google to show that kind of result, it will happen as branded searches increase. Also, some industries are more likely to be displayed with a 6 or 10 result SERP, like apparel or general merchandise, for example. To our clients, what we advise is that you continue to build your brand through strong marketing. Keep working on that SEO and providing good information to Google, and really demonstrate that you're the authority in your industry. It will happen with time. Unless, of course, Google discontinues the 6-pack, which is always a possibility because they're always changing things up and they love keeping us on our toes.
All right, so this is a big question, hands down. The biggest thing that all of our clients want to know and that support gets calls about all the time is, when will I see results? People really want to know when to expect their changes are going to start making a real impact on their search traffic or rankings. Sadly, it's a little more complicated than that, so our answer is it depends. It depends on your industry, the competition, your current state of optimization, the work you've done on your site. So the first thing we want to just make sure we're all clear about is, what are results? The main thing you should be looking for is to see if your SEO is working. That should show an increase in organic traffic. This represents your unpaid search engine traffic. So in your Google Analytics account, you can take a look at the amount of organic traffic you're getting overall, or look at the traffic and sales from specific pages you've been working on. It's a little more long-term, so you want to check on these month over month or even year over year just because of seasonality to watch that organic traffic grow and see the impact you're making. In order to get this at all, you need to add the tracking code from Google to your website so it can start collecting that data. We have a really great knowledge base article at support.volusion.com that can help you set up analytics on your own, and that one is going to be hyperlinked up here when we send out the slide deck.
Yeah, and Allison's really right. Adding Google Analytics is so important because that enhanced analytics is literally part of every single marketing service that we offer. It's so vital to understanding what's happening on your site and how people are interacting with your pages. You can add the basic tracking on your own with the help of that support article we just mentioned, or we even sell the setup by itself as a service so we can make sure that everything is tracking properly for you.
Exactly. And optimization, it builds on itself. So you're going to see incremental results that compound over time. And if you really think about it, that makes perfect sense. It would be so weird for the search engines to totally change all the search results based on the changes to one website. They really want to test a website and its pages to ensure that it is a good result of the search. They want to see that these changes you've been making, they really are relevant and that customers are finding what they're looking for now that you've given Google more information on what the page is about.
Yeah, so just play around with your keyword diversity and see which ones are converting. Those items and your increased traffic and conversions are going to be so much more important for determining the success of your SEO than just looking at your rankings. So I know we've been talking about on-page optimization, things like your tags and your description and your content. This almost will immediately communicate to the search engines what that page is about. The search engines will make mild adjustments to those search results to reflect the new information and serve up that page to someone if they believe that it's a relevant result for that user. They'll also monitor what people do when they get to the website after making that search. If the visitors appear to be happy with the result, visibility will increase for those kinds of searches. If they can tell if someone goes to the page and immediately leaves, what you may have heard as a bounce rate, or if they seem to struggle to navigate and find their way around the website, you might be penalized. If all these signals look good, then they'll show the page to more and more customers, and it really becomes like a looping cycle that builds on itself.
Absolutely. And, another thing is just time. Time is a variable that search engines monitor. So the amount of time that your site's been live, how long you've been pushing out new content, that can signal quality, commitment, and stability. And all of those things together impact the perceived authority and the trustworthiness of your website. Another kind of variation that we get in terms of, when will I see results is how long is it going to take for Google to index and update its information? We get this question a lot, like a site goes live or a store owner changes all their meta tags and then they go do a search and they're still seeing that old information in the search result. So if you've changed your meta title or your meta description and you look it up on Google and you're not seeing that new information, just be patient. You can see how Google is indexing your site in Webmaster Tools, so you can get a better idea of whether Google is sort of overriding that information or if it just hasn't been by your site to make a change yet. Over time, it is going to update. Use that time that you have to add in some new content or work on other parts of your SEO, so when Google does come by to crawl your site, it's going to have even more great information. Ultimately, this just depends on when Google decides to crawl your site. This is not something that you can force them to do, but they have spiders, and if you've heard of spiders, it's just like little robots going through all the websites on the internet regularly. So it could be 10 minutes, it could be 10 days before Google comes back to your site and updates what it's showing in the search results.
So just to say it another way, you can't force Google to come crawl your site, but there are still things you can be doing in the meantime.
Absolutely, Grace. If you want, you can kind of politely let Google know that you've made some updates. It's up to them, again, to come crawl the site, but you can definitely let them know or give them a little nudge by submitting your sitemap to Google and Webmaster Tools and letting them know, hey, a change has been made.
And sometimes our merchants might see that Google's showing something else entirely in the search result.
Well, sometimes Google just does that. I mean, they have a lot of good information on similar sites, and sometimes they think that they can write a better meta description or title, so they'll just substitute their own. If that happens, you might want to spend a little time and try out some new meta information. Make sure it's extremely relevant to the page, and hopefully they'll prefer that new information. But honestly, sometimes those search engines, they just think that they know best with these things.
All right, so let's move on. We know that this is something that a lot of you were excited to hear about today. We know that as a business owner, your time is really valuable. I mean, Allison and I do SEO every day as a full-time job, so we know sometimes how deep in the rabbit hole you can go. You're running a business, but you might also be the head of logistics or product sourcing or customer care. You really just wear a lot of hats. And then on top of that, you have little things like your own life and family and friends to be thinking about in the meantime.
Yeah, no kidding. SEO can be a beast, but it's really, really important. The good news is you can make a big impact with systematic, smaller changes over time. So let's just dig in and talk about what you can do if you have 15 minutes a day to dedicate to your SEO. The first and probably biggest thing you need to change, if you haven't already, is just kind of the way that you view SEO. So don't think about the huge pile of things that you could be doing for SEO. Don't get bogged down in those details. We're going to tell you exactly what to focus on. You can chip away at a little bit each day, and it is going to have a positive impact. Anytime you want to make a new habit, tie it into something you're already doing. So when you go in and you're checking your orders every day, try and do a little SEO work before you log out while you're in there.
Okay, so let's get into some specifics. We would really say that the best thing you can do with your time is to go through your site and create some unique meta tags and also some really great unique content. We've already talked a little bit today about the meta tags and the meta descriptions, those advanced info fields, and your product and category pages. I know that a lot of you have thousands of products on your page, and that can seem like a lot to write. So to begin, just start with those products that are your top sellers or maybe items that have especially high margins for you and knock those out first. If you only upload a couple of products at a time when you're adding new inventory, try and fill out those fields as you're adding them in. Remember that you're trying to get the user to click on your link instead of someone else's that's a substitute. So try to make sure that you're really accurately describing what's on the page and include as much valuable information as that space allows. Another thing that you've probably heard all the time is the phrase that content is king. Every website should be built on the good on-page optimization with those fields. That is true. But at the end of the day, content is really the most valuable thing that you can be doing for SEO. And honestly, that's not something that's going to change with the next search algorithm update. Content is always going to be a hugely important part of telling your own story. So you should start making that investment in your site now, and you'll be reaping the rewards well into the future. Okay,
so really quick, what kind of content are we talking about? So the text on the pages of your website is probably the singularly biggest piece of information that you can control in terms of SEO that's going to make the biggest impact. So that's the most bang for your buck. You want to take the time to fill in the product, the category description fields with unique content so it's different on each of those pages and it's speaking to that page specifically. So if you're using the same description across a few products, you're using manufacturers' descriptions that can be found in other parts of the web, that field is blank, or maybe it's only a couple sentences long, or maybe it's just technical specs, your priority here really should be to go in and write some better descriptions.
Yeah, so start with the bigger pages, like your home page and your main category pages, and then work your way down into products, kind of like a funnel. Even if you just do one product or category page each day, just think that after 365 days, you'll have amazing content for a large chunk of your website in a year. That will then improve their rankings, but you don't necessarily have to get it all done at once. Get the important ones done first, and try to make it a regular habit of going in and writing content for a couple of pages at a time. And remember that these can go right into the category or product description fields in your dashboard. Also, Google's going to be reading your page to get the best possible idea of what it's about. So if you have a product page, when you're writing your content, try to ask questions like, who's going to use this? What might they use it for? What kind of problem does it solve for my customers? And why is this better than an alternative product? And then write descriptions based around that to give your customer a better idea of what each page is about and show up for more searches. If you're showing it to customers and it has value to them, Google's going to think that it is the most important thing, and it will treat it as such. And as with everything, we're still trying to create a good user experience. So make sure that the text is really easy to read. Try to break it up into small paragraphs and consider using lists and other kind of devices to make the text more scannable.
Another quick and easy to use thing is social media. Social media is a huge part of SEO, and it's a pretty quick way to spread things out. It's important to remember that, sites like Facebook and Twitter, they're kind of search engines of their own. People go in there and discover things anew. So if you wrote a blog post, go ahead and share it on Twitter, Facebook, Google+, all your other social profiles. This is a really safe way to link back to your site, and it's a quick way to spread the word about your new content. So I like to say, if a tree falls in the forest and nobody's there to share it, does it make a sound? I mean, share it doesn't. So sharing on social media is the quickest way to get people to start interacting with that content so Google can see that people like it, and those positive signals, like we talked about, help you. So always make sure that you write a thoughtful little description before putting that link on a social site, and that gives Google some context and lets them know what that link means. And this gives them even more information about your page. Honestly, websites like Twitter, they get crawled by Google faster than anything else. It's getting crawled faster than your website, so it's a good place to have some real estate. Also, social media, sometimes they rank really high, so it gives you a couple more spots where you can show up in search results, and you can get people back to your site sort of indirectly from search engines that way too, by somebody finding your Facebook profile, then clicking to your site.
Yeah, that's completely right. And we really think that with some simple steps like this, you really ought to see an improvement in your organic traffic and ultimately sales and conversions as search engines are able to put your products in front of the audience that's perfect for you.
So there's a lot to know about SEO. You can work on the things that you know make an impact, like content, not something with negative repercussions. You know your brand, you know your products. Spend your time trying to describe them better, add more information for your customers, and Google's going to be able to use that same information to get things to the right place in front of the right customers. If it's good enough to show your customers on that page, Google will understand that that content's important, and it'll use it to understand your site better and try to show it where it really belongs.
So just take it one step at a time, break things down into little bite-sized pieces, and try to tie them into activities that you're already doing. I mean, after all, you have to come in all the time to your store and update your stock, fulfill orders, or make a Facebook update. So try and take a couple of extra minutes whenever you're working on your site or on a product and add a longer description, maybe craft a short little post that can be a landing page, or craft a few great meta tags when you get in there. And if you do a couple at a time, you'll have that groundwork laid really before you know it.
Absolutely. And doing all those things, it's important to just keep in mind, SEO is an ongoing process. So it's just something that you want to build into your work. Do it a little bit at a time, but plan on doing it long term. I really don't want, after this webinar, for you guys to go and burn yourself out trying to do everything at once. See this as routine maintenance for your store.
Yeah. And when in doubt, remember to try to do what's best for your customer and not what's best for Google. I mean, oddly enough, that's exactly what Google's looking for most of the time. So you used to be able to game the system a little bit more and have some sneaky tricks, but remember that the people that are doing that are now starting to be penalized.
Yeah, to just keep it focused, just try to make sure you're telling your customers what you have, why they want it, what they'll use it for. All of that's going to help Google show your site in the right places so you can get more traffic and sales.
Allison and I both think that SEO can be something that can be really energizing for you. It's another way that on a lot of different ways on your site, you can describe to the customer what you're selling, who you are, and tell them your story. So talk like you're talking right to them, and they're really going to understand you better.
Exactly. So we really hope that in going through a few of these that we were able to answer some of the questions that you guys came in with today and maybe help demystify SEO a little bit for you.
But don't worry, if you're still feeling overwhelmed or you don't know how you can fit SEO into your busy schedule, we're definitely here to help you. And we, as a matter of fact, have a lot of really exciting promotions going on for the month of March. And we're also excited to share that for the first time, we're offering a complimentary social media profile optimizations for packages purchased before March 13th.
Yeah, SEO and social media are good friends, so be sure to ask about our exciting new style marketing bundles. That's going to be perfect if you're in like the clothing, the jewelry, the home goods markets. It's a hybrid of SEO and social media, so that's a really good way to like propel you and get your name out there. Finally, today we are going to be raffling off 5 free SEO audits for your store so you can find out exactly what you need to do and create a really good plan of action. So send us a tweet at Volusion or post a message on the Volusion Facebook using the hashtag sell4timesmore to be entered to win.
So we're going to take a little bit of a break now to review those questions you've been sending in. So if you have something else that's still burning on your mind, pop us a message right now with your question. And we're going to try to get to everyone's today with a little bit of time we have left, but if we run out, we're also going to be posting answers to all your questions as a blog post on the Volusion business blog in the near future. So hang tight for a couple of minutes. We'll be right back with you.
All right, see you soon. Okay, everybody, we got a lot of questions, so, like we said, we're going to try to get through as many as we can. This one came in a little bit earlier from Eric. I'm just starting to learn more about SEO, Google AdWords, and advertising. I have a couple out-of-the-box ideas, but I worry about them failing. Will targeting my advertisements toward definite annual searches that aren't tied to any product or service in an attempt to gain brand name recognition turn out to be a shot in the foot, or wouldn't the company gain from this? Some ideas I had were linked to Father's Day or the Super Bowl. I would use the buzz generated by these yearly events to capitalize on other searches that are a byproduct of the event. So what Eric's trying to say here, it sounds like, is should he spend some money taking out Google ads that are just for like something like Father's Day or Super Bowl and get people to his site in the hopes that they get to know his brand a little bit better? So the short answer is that's not a great idea. We really do, anytime we bring somebody to your site, we really want it to be somebody who has a chance of having a good time there. That being said, we love thinking outside the box, and there are some really cool other ways of accomplishing this. So the first thing that you could do is you could create a landing page, and you could create something that's, best Father's Day gifts, and create a little collection of your products that you think could be applicable in that context. You can also create a blog post where you talk about, maybe the history of the Super Bowl or something that could maybe tie into, in this case, what he sells is a good supply for maybe tailgating. So he could talk to that aspect of it and, find a way to create a context that makes sense. Finally, definitely social media is kind of a place where you can do this. If something's, quote, trending, it gets shown up more. So for example, Facebook is going to show that post to a lot more people if a lot of people are talking about it at once. So there's no problem in saying Happy Father's Day, or here's a great way to use this product to try to create a buzz around your website. So ultimately, just to summarize, short answer is don't do something unrelated. As we talked about a lot in the webinar, we want the user to get to your site and like it, not just bounce off or be confused. But there are tons of ways that you can frame the things that you have through landing pages, through blog posts, and through social media to make them applicable to stuff that you already know there's going to be an increase in volume for. So take that creativity and get out there and go write some stuff. I think you're going to do really well with this.
All right, so another question that we had come in that I think is probably going to be relatable for a lot of you out there is, should I focus on ranking for a keyword for a brand I carry, or should I focus on a more generic keyword? So we know that there's a lot of different websites out there. Some of you guys are certified distributors for one kind of specific brand. Some of you are selling your own handmade goods, or some of you might carry a bunch of different brands. And this is something, regardless, that all of you can be thinking about. So if you're carrying one kind of specific brand on your page, definitely make sure that you use that brand name as a keyword all over the place. You want to have it on your home page, on your category pages, and on your product pages. If you're someone that's selling a lot of different kinds of brands, maybe if you're like a shoe seller or clothing or different kinds of things like that, and you're carrying a lot of different brand and manufacturers, make sure that you have landing pages or category pages by brand. That's something that's really going to help people navigate around your store. And on those brand category pages, be sure that you're using that brand name in the keywords and in the titles, descriptions, and on-page content. That's going to help get people to your store as opposed to a competitor and help them find what they're looking for. I will say, though, that you do want to have a mix. Typically, we advise to people that you try to hone in on between 3 and 5 keywords per page of your site. So if it's for a category page that's just that brand, make sure you're using the brand names. But if you just want to focus on something, throw in a couple of each. Like someone who's earlier in the buying process who doesn't know what they're looking for necessarily might search for generic keywords. And then later on, they might search for a brand name if they know exactly what they find, but they want to find the people who can have the fastest shipping or the lowest price. So definitely make sure you have a mix. And if you're trying to pull traffic away from that brand or that manufacturer's page and you want to tell people like, hey, we know you could buy it straight from the source, but here you should come over instead and buy it from us. In your meta description, try to put in something that's really enticing, like if you have fast and free shipping, for example.
Yeah, absolutely. So we just got another one. It says, I've been thinking about adding some videos to my product pages. Is it a problem if I link to a video on YouTube, or is this going to take people away from my website? So first of all, when you're on YouTube and you're getting a link, there is an embedded link, and you can put that right in the code view, the code view, always the code view, of the product description. That's going to allow them to sort of have that YouTube player right on the page. And hopefully, you know, there is always that risk that they see the related videos afterwards and leave. But the thing I really want you guys to focus on is this going to be the thing that tips somebody over the edge? Like, if they're just browsing, is this going to give them that piece of information that's going to make them say, no, you know what? Now I have a way better idea of how to use this. I have to have it. I'm going to buy it. So you really want to answer this question by just saying, what's the best user experience? Is this going to be valuable information for your customer? Is this going to be something that's going to make them more likely to buy, enjoy, and understand your products? If that's the case, then absolutely you should put that video there. And honestly, if you're linking to other videos like this and you know that your product is really demonstratable that way, you may want to think about making some of your own YouTube videos. I mean, that's another kind of more social piece of real estate, but those are links back to your site. That's more content, and that's more information that is saying that you're the authority on this product. So just think about what's going to be best for your customers. Honestly, having something visual, something fun, tends to do well and be helpful. So take a look, have fun with it, enjoy it.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And a lot of times people even remember context from video better than if they're reading the text. So if you can include videos that are relative, then it's definitely a great thing to do. So moving on to another one, the question was, is it okay to repeat meta tags, like, for example, the About Us or the homepage? And for there, we really want to say that it's not going to hurt you if you have duplicate titles and descriptions on your pages. I know that sometimes you can set one and have it work for the whole website, but we really can't emphasize enough that it's going to be great for you to have unique content. And not only is it going to help get more people to your store, but you're going to come up in more searches if you're demonstrating through your meta tags that you have different kinds of things available other than what you can say, you know, in the limited amount of pixel space of your title and description that you might have on your homepage. So don't worry about it if you do, but I really can't say enough about trying to make sure that you have unique tags.
Absolutely. All right, we just got one. Okay, it says, is it worth it to invest in SEO even if my site can't get a #1 ranking in search results? Okay, so yeah, short answer is yes. You need to make an investment, and whether that's your time or whether that is having an expert like us do it for you, organic search traffic is, for a lot of our stores, that's most of the money that's coming into their store. So if you were to cut that out completely, or you were to even cut it in half, that would be a significant effect on your sales. A #1 ranking is not necessarily the right thing to focus on. The most important thing is making sure that you're showing up for the right customers, the customers that are really going to buy your products. I mean, if you show up as number 1 for something that's a lot of people browsing, or you're showing up as number 15 for something that's a lot of people who are really interested, committed, lifelong people, we can all agree that that second thing is more valuable. So don't focus on the ranking. I mean, especially for you guys, you tell how successful you are by your sales. And the biggest indicator that that's going to happen is your traffic. So the ranking is sort of a separate thing. I really don't want you guys to look at the ranking. The traffic that you're looking at in your Google Analytics should be increasing. And getting more traffic is more important than getting a higher ranking. So that's the metric that we're looking at. And yes, it's definitely still worth it to spend a little time getting a bigger piece of that traffic. For sure. I think that that's super helpful for your store.
Yeah, and another thing that I'll add on top of what Allison just said is that we mentioned earlier that you should try to diversify the keywords that you're using, and that is completely true in this case. So you might be able to come up for something that's a little more descriptive and a longer keyword, and if you're doing a search result in Google, like there are a lot of results where, like, let's face it, you're not going to come up above Target or Walmart or these billion-dollar stores with crazy amounts of traffic. But if you get a little more specific, that will connect you with the people that are exactly right for your product. So like Allison was saying, don't worry if you're not number 1. Like, if people want to find you and they are looking for what you have exactly, like, there's a really good chance that you'll connect.
Yeah, I mean, even though the number 1 spot gets a lot of traffic, it's not like people on the second page of Google, it's not just crickets. You're still getting traffic. So our goal is to increase your traffic. We can help you do that, and these tips can help you do that, and those are really going to be helpful to you. All right, so we're running out of time. We got so excited with all your questions. I really just wanted to say thank you so much for everybody for joining us today. Honestly, our hearts are so warm, and we're so happy that we got to share this time with you. We've had so much fun sharing our passion for SEO. Please be sure to visit the Volusion business blog at onlinebusiness.volusion.com. That's a great resource. We write blog posts on there. Our whole team does. And hopefully we can help continuing to give you guys some good tips to help you make your store even better. So happy selling, good luck, best wishes, and take care.
And thanks again.